Okay, guys, so before I actually show you guys how I approached rendering my drawing of Isabel, I wanted to explain to you how rendering works, or like how to determine where we shade, right? And to do that, we need to understand what light source is. Okay, the light source is actually where the light is coming from in the reference. Okay, so that's probably the most important thing because if you know where the light source is and if you understand where the light source is, then you know what needs to be lighter and what needs to be darker. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our image of Isabel. Right, so you'll notice Isabel, she, unlike Patrick, right, she is a three-dimensional character. Right, she has form. Right, the reason we know that she has form is because she has depth. Right, you can see that she's not just like a flat, like this shape is not just a flat circle, it's like a spherical object. Right, and that's how we know that there's depth. Right, so this reference is already rendered, but right now, if I oops, sorry, no, I forgot, I lost it. So if I show you my drawing, right, uh, if you look at your drawing, you don't have these shadows, so your character doesn't have depth, right, yet. Our job is to apply rendering to it so that our drawing also gets depth, right? It only has length and width. So in order to do that, we need to understand where the light is coming from on our reference image. Okay, so there's no visible light source here, right? Like there's no picture of a sun, there's no lamp or anything like that that tells us where the light is coming from. But if we look at the highlights and shadows that are already on our reference, we can figure out the direction of the light. Okay, so here we see that this side, we're going to just look at one object, right, or one piece of the reference right now. This hair object thing, this side is lighter than this part, right? This side is also much lighter than this part. Okay, I know it's very subtle. I actually chose this section here because it's very subtle, and you have to see those subtleties. Okay, so if this side is lighter than this side, then that means the light source is somewhere on the right side, right? Um, you have to think of it this way, right? If it's closer to the light, it's brighter. If it's further from the light, it's darker. Okay, so for example, if you look at the camera, right, my camera right now, you can see that this part of my face is illuminated compared to like this part of my face, right? So you can tell that the light source is coming from this direction, right? I actually have a window in front of me. So shadows, which are the darkest points you can really get, are always going to be on the opposite side of the light source, right? So, like if I put my hand here, notice how bright it is. If I put my hand back here, notice how much darker it is. And now I'm going to block the light almost completely. Let's use this hand by putting it behind my head, right? My head is now blocking the light from hitting my hand completely. So it casts something called a shadow, right? So you would use a darker value here to illustrate that, and everything up here would be a lighter value, right? So let's take a look back at our reference here, right? So here a shadow is being cast, and here a highlight is being made. Okay, everything in the middle, that's going to be our midtone. Okay, that's going to be our midtone, and we're going to want to transition from this highlight to this shadow, right? Highlight here, shadow back here. All right. So again, light source, finding the highlights which are closest to the light source, and then our shadow.